Hello gamers, Pet here. Welcome to part 3 of my tutorial for Bolt, which is a Unity asset. The purpose was to try to create a small Plants vs Zombie clone. I say small, it's not going to even be a game because we are not going to have a win state or a phase state. I'm just trying to implement some mechanics and see how they work, how we can make multiple multiple game objects talk to themselves and stuff like that. But since it's part 3, you are probably knowing that already. So in this video we are going to talk about the spawning sun. If you click the sun, you gain money. You spend money to build plants. UI buttons have been renamed. The UI manager update plant buttons updated. I have updated the find plant. Then we implemented the firing plant, the animator, the state machine, and the line cast, and we also did a bullet. Sorry, this is what we are going to talk about. They are already in, and I can already show you how is it happening. Let's actually do it a little bit different. Let's go to our game manager. We are going to the app, and we are going to set up the money to something like 100, whatever. And check this out. So we have money, we have a plant, we click it. I had to offset the plant, as you can see, so it shouldn't be right under the cursor, and I have a problem there. And if you have any suggestions on how to do this, please tell me, because the problem was that since the plants have they need to have a collider set up as trigger, right? So we see when the zombie meets the plants in order to DPS them. Since the plant was right under the cursor, whenever we wanted to build and click the tiling, the grass tiles, right? We weren't clicking the grass tiles, we were clicking the plants, and that's a problem. And normally you kind of have to, when you make the raycast to make the click, you can set up a mask or a layer to what to ignore or what to take into consideration. But since we are using this, let's go here at the grass tile. We are using this event on mouse down. We can't really input anything special about it. So I'm a little bit like, how would you guys do this? How are you suggesting to fix this? So we have the plant. This is our money. When we click, bam, we lost money. And look over here, this plant is a little bit grayed out because it's more expensive and we can't really build it. Not only that, but we have sun that when I managed to click it right on time. We now have 70 money, and this plant, if I remember correctly, cost 85. So bam, now the UI button has updated, and now if we build this one, bam, it's in. And it's not doing anything right now. But if we somehow, let's say we would have gotten a zombie in our raycast that you can see here. Boop, boop, boop. The animation is not in sync with the bullets, but we are not we don't care about it. And hey, if there are no more zombies, the plant stopped firing. So it was a little bit challenging, but it wasn't that challenging this time because I've already done this when I did the other tutorial for the flow canvas, and there were a lot of struggles there, but I've learned from that, and I'm happy that when I did this with Bolt, I already had some experience, which means that I'm learning, and that's good because it's always important to learn. So let's start with the spawning sun. In the last video, I believe that we did the plant sunflower, right? That when it's planted, we are doing this, and we are instantiating a sun, which is a prefab. And we also need to talk about the set parent, because actually let's just tag it right now. Why would I write it down and then tag? I updated the set parent to, the transform local position is requiring an input, and I didn't bother with this because 000 was exactly what I wanted. Like, I wanted the sun to spawn right in the middle of the plant because it goes up anyway. Well, we are now doing a position as an input because I do want to specify the exact position where we want to spawn it, because, for example, there will be maybe a problem later when with the firing bullet, right? The bullet will spawn, but it will already hit the collider, the trigger of the firing plant, which at one point it shouldn't matter because we check to see if we collide with the zombie and not with something else. But I remember that I had problems in the past, and you know, stuff like that, right? So I wanted to be safe with that. And even right that, if you remember, the debug line, the line itself, the raycast, I also made sure, let's actually play it so you can see it yourself, even if we are going to talk about this a little bit later. Since I'm here, check this out. We are going to build the plant, and of course, guys, guess what? The moment I start recording, the cat wants out. They have been sleeping for the past hours without moving. And as you can see, the line is over here, the raycast, and I made sure that the line cast, it's not starting from inside, because if you are starting from inside, it's going to always be null or true or something like that, even if you somehow make the masks or something. I had some problems in the past, and right now I haven't encountered those problems, but I already took some kind of small precautions, and I didn't want to bother too much to actually test those stuff. So just keep this in mind in case you are doing this yourself and you want to test this. Sure, do it yourself. So in the last episode we were talking about the sunflower, and as you can see, we are waiting. We did a small thingy, like the delay was actually hard-coded here, as you can see, 3, and it's not really a good idea. So we are now getting a variable that's on the object itself. So if we look at the sunflower, we have 2 variables right now, the price and the spawn sun timer. This is the timer on how fast the suns will come out, as you can see here. So I'm not sure what's with that. Let's actually go at the sun itself. The sun itself also has a value of a variable of 20, which is the money that you will gain when you click the sun. And this is the logic for the sun. On update, we are using a translate transform, and that's how we actually move the sun. If you have others better suggestions on how to do this, write in the comments below or email me. In the past I tried to use it like with an add force, but that's always a little bit weird because it's using physics, and there was no point to use physics here. So I'm just doing it like this, and the value that we are going up, it's 0.04, which is kind of like a strange number, but after all, I'm not going to bother too much with this, like why is it like this and whatever, and it's not like a more normal number or whatever. Also, I'm using this on update, not on fixed update. What do you guys think it's like the best? Fixed update is usually for the physics, but right now we are not doing any physics. So I'm not sure if I should move something and do it like with delta time or something like that. Anyway, these are some of my questions that I have, and maybe you know them and maybe you want to write in the comments below. Now, we are doing something here with this. There is a problem. One thing that we are not really doing optimal at all, we are always instantiating and destroying objects. We are instantiating and destroying suns, and we are going to instantiate and destroy bullets. And with a game like this, you can really build a lot of firing plants, and there will be a lot of bullets, and there will be a lot of bullets that get destroyed and created in every frame, right? And that will be a problem later, and maybe if I will have time, I will make a video about that, but we are not using object pooling, basically. That's what I want to say. So, if a sun is not getting clicked, or if a bullet is not really hitting anything, they will still exist in the scene, and they will continually travel, and so on. So, in the past, I used something like wait for a hard-coded number of seconds, and then we destroy it. And then I was like, this is hard-coded. I don't want, let's try to do it a little bit better, right? So a sun is getting spawned, but if I go up from this is 1, 2, 3, okay, 4 seconds, and I hardcode it to 4 seconds, but maybe we change the value of the sun and so on, it moves faster. This is not how you should do it. So I looked and I found that we have this renderer is visible. So if renderer is visible self, if we are visible, if the sun is visible, we have true or false. If when this becomes false, we destroy the object. And what is this renderer doing is basically it looks at the camera, and we only have one camera. And if the camera is not seeing that object anymore, it means it's false and we are going to destroy it. It is actually kind of a cool thing, but one thing you need to keep in mind, especially when you are working with 3D and so on, just because the camera doesn't see the object, it doesn't mean it doesn't see the shadow of the object, in case you have some kind of a shadow lingering among the view of the camera. Okay, now, and I also forgot that we will also need to talk about the manage money thingy, but we will do that right now actually. So, this is the sun. When we click, we do manage money. We have an operation here that's add or subtract, and we are inputting the value of self, and then we are going to destroy ourselves. Right? So, let's now talk about the way we spend to build money and plans. And this is, let's actually talk about the manage money since it's right here. And I'm kind of a little bit proud of this one. I mean, not proud, I'm proud of all my babies. But basically it's like this. When it comes to money, you will always be able to gain money or to lose money. We usually gain money when we click the plant right now. And we usually lose money when we build a plant. We gain money when we click the sun, and we lose money when we build a plant. But let's say mechanical wise, maybe you will want to have maybe debuffs that will let you lose money. Maybe you will want to gain money every couple of seconds. And why not actually create some kind of super unit that's going to handle the money? And I did an operation because it's always going to be add or subtract, and we are going to always have an input, and I can even write it right there, right? So this is why it's kind of cool that I created this super unit. So let's talk a little bit about the super unit. As you can see, we have switch on enum add sub, and this is how the enum it's called. And I do have to thank to Jason, I believe that's your name, because he helped me with that. And I actually have this file, this script called my enums. I know, retard name, you maybe want to do it better. And the enum is called enum add sub. And as you can see, this is enum add sub, and it has two options, add and subtract. And you can create your own enums like in scripts, and then you can use them like this. And this is actually kind of awesome, right? And before doing it like this, I had a switch. I actually had not a switch, a branch, and I was creating a true or false. If it was false, it means that you are adding. If it was true, it means you are subtracting. It was hard to remember, and like even that it's much more intuitive like this. And this is what's happening here. We are getting the variable from the application, money, and then we are going to subtract our money with the input value. In this case, we are going to add the input value to the money. Then we are setting the variable money to this new value. And then we are sending a trigger event called update money to our UI manager, and then we exit, right? And if you remember, the update money function is doing this. It's coming here. It's looking at the text from our label that's up here. It's getting the variable money text, and it's applying the money in that text. That's all. And then we update. We will talk about this right in a second, right? So this is all it does, and this actually fixed a lot of my problems that I talked in part 2, because I always had, every time I had a change of money, I always had to call this trigger and do this, and it was, why don't I have that on variable change? Remember when I talked about that? There's no point, because why? Because I'm using this manage money graph, like I'm using it here. And it's actually super intuitive because I don't have to touch the money variable at all, because the money manager variable is doing it, right? Now, let's talk about the UI buttons have been renamed. If you remember, the UI buttons were always sunflower or firing plant. And it was no problem. but because we were doing something with the buttons on top, I wanted to give them a more exact name, a more unique name, so I know it's about the UI button and not something else. Even that whenever you build a new sunflower, the name of the sunflower is sunflower parenthesis clone. So I kind of wouldn't have entered that problem, but I still wanted to do it like that. So, but the problem is that this created a problem with the finding plant script, because the finding plant script was always looking at the sunflower and the finding plant in order to match it with the proper plants, right? And we are using this. We are using a string split. I remember there is a way to explode the string, and I use explode because 10 years ago when I was using PHP, that's how you exploded a string. And it took me some time to see how to use it. It required a separator, and I was like, how the hell do I, you see, if you drag and drop the separator from here, you're like, how the hell, how do you do it? And it requires kind of like a collection, a list, but then I don't see it here. And I remember searching for string, and then I looked at the strings, and hey, I remember reading in the manual that something like an array of string, and I was like, okay, this is the one. And then I just did like this, and this is the separation, as you can see. So basically this creates an array, and in our case it will have two items, sunflower and UI button, and we only care about the first item. So this is why we are getting the first item, and then we are plugging in the first item into the select on string, and that's all that we are doing. Now let's move forward. Do you remember on how we have money, and then when we build something, the UI buttons grayed out and I can't really click it anymore? I wanted to do it like this because in the past, the way I was doing it, whenever you want to build, you were able to click any UI plant you want, even if you didn't have the money. But when you wanted to build it, I was outputting an error in the debug message, which was of course not the way you should do it. If I don't have the money, I shouldn't be able to click the plant. So this is what I actually did, and it actually fixed all my checkup problems to see if you have enough money, because if you don't have money, you won't be able to build anything anyway. So if we look at the update money, we have this function called update player buttons, update player plant buttons. So let me see if I remember correctly. I've seen a way to do this more efficient, and it's and not like this. It's create list, not like this. How was it? It was right in the manual, and sometimes it's a good idea to read the manual, because that's how you see a lot of easier stuff on how to do it, and I can't really find it. Right, look, this is the one. List of game object. List of game object. How did he do it? You can list of game literal, but I am list of game object. I don't have it. Code-based system collection generic. Code-based system collection. I don't have it. What? Collections generic. Code-based system. I don't have generic here. Oh well, this is one of the reasons why I can't really find this. Anyway, something to look into this, because maybe this was one of the reasons why I couldn't find this. But as you can see, this is actually kind of beautiful, right? Because it's just one node and you can add your stuff here, and not like I did it here. And this is something that I've learned, and it's so retardedly easy, as you can see here. You know my problems from the first, I believe from the first part. How do I reference a prefab? How do I reference a prefab without... And the find plant button, this is one of the reasons why the prefab, the find plant button is instantiating itself, because I wanted to reference the sunflower. That's all that I wanted to do, not to instantiate it. I was actually planning to instantiate the plant later. But now I learned that it's actually like super easy. How? You just go to game object, game object, right? And you have game object literal, okay, and then you have this thingy, and what do? You can click the nipple, or you can try to it was so easy, guys. All along it was so easy. So yeah, that's how I'm creating this list. And what we are doing here, like, this whole code needs to be the same, right? It needs to be the same. What only matters is this is the place where I will add all the plans, all the future plans. And this is a for each loop. And what we want to do here is to actually get the price of each plant and then compare it to the money that we have. So this is a branch here. This is the first thing that happens, that triggers on both of our runs. So we get the object. This is the object that's coming here. This is the game object, and we get the variable price. If you remember correctly, each of our plant has a variable called price. Now, then we also get the variable from our application called money, and we do a greater by. And if it's and keep in mind that this triggers every time you do something with the money. If you gain money or you lose money, every time that variable update money triggers, this whole thing will trigger, right? So I'm sure that every time that will happen, I will do this checkup. If it's true, we find the UI button, which is a super unit, and I will go into it here. And this is, if this is true, I believe that I don't have money, and I do the UI, the button interactable, and I set it to false. And if I do have the money, I set it to true. And this is the thing with the UI buttons. The button script, normally I wanted to kind of disable the button script, and then I was thinking, but then I need to fade it out, you know, that I don't have the money. And I was like, why don't I use, you know, if you click this, it will lead you to the Unity manual, and always read the manual. Even if some tutorial guy like me is telling you something and whatever, always go and read the manual yourself, because you will find things sometimes yourself how to do them better, and sometimes you can put things together, and this manual is getting into your brain, and you will know how to do some stuff. And you have this component will accept input, see interactable, and you actually see more stuff about this. And you also have this thing here, disabled color. So if you click this whole unit becomes disabled. It's exactly what I wanted. So all I needed to do is find a way how I can access this component, so I can check or uncheck this, and it fixed all my problems. It was so easy once I kind of got the hang of it. So if I go back to the UI manager, you can see that what I've done was button, and I went here and I saw all the stuff that the button can do, including colors. I wanted to enable or disable or stuff like that, and I was like, hey, look, it's interactable. That's the thing that I want. And I had to specify who, right? Who is interactable. And this is what the find UI button. It's inputting a game object, and in our case, it's the sunflower, because this is the problem. The find plant is taking the UI name, it's stripping everything, and it's giving up us the game object plant, the prefab. We now have the prefab, but we don't want to access the prefab. We want to access the button, right? So this is kind of doing the same thing, but in the other way around. We are concatenate, however you pronounce it. We are concatenating a string. We get the name of the plant. We are adding a line UI button, and then we are doing a find ourselves, and then we are outputting what we found into our output, and this will actually output each of those buttons. This is the reason why I wanted those buttons to actually be unique. So this is how we did the whole button thing, and this is the, I believe that this is the, yeah, this is kind of like the whole thing that is handling the money. This was it. However, one thing that, when we get to the polish stage, if we are going together ever, whenever you gain money or you build a plant, what I would like to do, you see the money will just disappear. It will just change. I would like to run some kind of animation with a text going a little bit down and fading out, and it will actually show the money that you lost or gained. Wouldn't that be cool? And I think at one point I will do that, because it shouldn't be that hard to do. So we have so far talked about the spawning sun, the clicking the sun we gain money, spend money to build plants, the UI buttons have been renamed, and the UI manager is updating the plant buttons, and that way we are sure that we have the money to build the plants or not. And we are now going to talk about the firing plant and a little bit about the bullet. And I'm going to start with the bullet, because the bullet is very boring right now. And as you can see, the bullet, it's kind of the same thing like the sun, only that it's not moving up, it's moving from left to right. That's it with the bullet so far. The bullet, of course, will have to take the damage variable that I plan to put on the plant and not on the bullet, so I have to see how to do that. And the bullet will have collision when it will collide with a zombie. I haven't done the health system yet. That's going to be hopefully for the next video. And that's going to send, whenever it's going to trigger with an enemy, it's going to send an event to the health system of that enemy, and it's going to withdraw to get the health a little bit less, right? And I believe that the firing plants right now, the plants right now, they don't have a health variable. They will do have it at one point. So let's actually talk about the firing plant. Like with the spawning plant, we created two animation. The firing plant actually has this state machine, because it has an animation where it's idle, which is not an animation, it's frozen, it doesn't animate. But then it has the idle animation, and then it has the firing animation, which is why we have this super complex animation system. So the way you go from frozen to the idle is, as you can see, from the planted, when the planted this didn't saved or something, even that it works. You see, we have planted true, but here we don't have. I forgot to put planted true, so there is no condition to enter from this state to this state. However, this whole thing is actually working. If we are to build a firing plant right now, if we click it, it doesn't animate at all. No, it animates actually. That's not good. We found a problem. If we look at the animator, you can't see it because we need to select the firing plant. As you can see, the plant is already in the idle state, so it goes here and it goes immediately here. Not good, not good. Let's fix this. So we have to click here, we have to add condition, we have to be planted there. Yeah, there was a bug, because I remember this. Yeah, I think firing false, firing true. I added it by accident here, or something like that happened. So yeah, when planted becomes true, we will go to the idle state. When firing becomes true, we will go to the firing state, and when firing becomes false, we go back to the idle state. And if we save our scene right now, and if we are going to play it, yep, it's not animating, and if we click it, it starts to animate, and we don't have money to build another one, so let's do it like this. This is our test zombie, and the zombie himself, we are not going to talk too much about it, actually not at all, but the zombie has a layer. And actually we are going to talk about the zombie, because we are going to talk about how this is happening, because I had to create a little bit of the zombie so I can put the layer on him. And so this is the animator of the firing plant. That's how the plant animates. And now look, let's go back at the state machine of the firing plant. And the more I work with the state machines like this, and the fact that I can put flow graphs inside the state machine, is like, oh, you have no idea how beautiful this is for me. So we have and something that I've learned from the last video, and I forgot if I think I've updated the I have, so I also have to talk about this. Do you remember how you see how our plants get dimmed out when they are selected to be built. And I was trying to do this in the last episode, which added 15 more minutes to the whole video. And then I created a screenshot that I have done it on my website, right? When I do the retail tutorial, and I had this exposed color thing, and then I was like, nope, all you need is a sprite renderer, and the sprite renderer, if you click here, you can set up the color of the sprite, including the alpha. That's all that I had to do. Now, something that I've learned, you have on enter state. When we enter this state, unplanted, we are setting the alpha of the sprite to 50, right? But then when we get planted, on enter state, we are setting the alpha to full, to 255. We could have done this a little bit different, and let me actually explain you how. The state machines are a little bit different, not like this. I wanted to show you, like, you have on enter, maybe it's like, since it's an event state, on enter state, on exit state, we could have done it over here. When we exit this state, we are setting the alpha to full, right? And if we go here and delete this, I believe that the firing plant will behave exactly the same. And I only wanted to show you this. You see, it's exactly the same. It's up to you on how you want to do it. In a way, I like it better like this because, hey, I can see it over here, and we could have done the same with the animation, but we don't want to do that. Actually, no, we shouldn't have done it like that. I wanted to put this over there, but then this wouldn't have triggered when we actually get back from the firing to the planted. So let's actually talk a little bit about the planted scene. And this is going to be a little bit scary. And I actually had a lot of problems with this the first time I was trying it, but you know, I've learned. I have this super unit called line cast, and this is inputting a layer mask, which is a variable of type layer mask. Yeah, you can actually do that, and this is one of the reasons why I love test, and then of what type, and then you type layer mask, and then you can see all the layers are here, right? I didn't knew this some time ago, and I was like, holy shit. And then it's outputting a boolean called colliding, and if the colliding is true, we are triggering this event called firing. And as you might have guessed, if you check this custom event, this is the transition. These transitions will trigger when the firing is happening. Yeah, as you might have guessed, the other is when this event stop firing is happening. And this is the whole. This is a test for me. I can actually delete this, and as you can see, we are doing this with the entering state. When we enter, we set the boolean of the animator to firing to true, so it will start firing. And when we exit, we set it to false. I mean, we could have put the false over here, but then it would have been a problem that would have triggered when we go from unplanted to planted, and you don't want that. So it was super logic to do it over here. Then we also have this update where we are having a firing speed. It's exactly like the sun, and we are instantiating a bullet at the position 000. And this is a problem that I had. I also have this. I'm using this set parent super unit, right? Whenever a bullet is fired, it will become a child of the firing plant itself, and it's not really required, but I was like, why not, right? I don't have to. Let's just use the set parent unit that we created. And this is where it was a problem. I was instantiated the object at some place else, like this, but then it was still spawning at 000, and I was like, why? And then I remembered that I set the parent, but then I set the local position to 000 because it was like this. I was like, I don't want this. I want the ability to modify this, because I want the bullet to not fire from the middle of the whole plant. And as you can see, the bullet is firing a little bit from above, in front, and a little bit from top. So it seems that the bullet is firing from the plant's mouth, because the plant itself, as you can see, it's not, it's a little bit on top, right? And it's not a little bit like in the middle, like in the zero. So this is a little bit of extra tuning to an older script that we did, or I did, or whatever. So this is a problem that I've encountered with the line cast. The line cast is an invisible line that's being drawn from one place and is going to end to another place. And the problem was like this. I started to do the line cast in this state, in the planted state, because we were always having a line and we were waiting for the zombie to come in. And then when the zombie would have come in, we would have started to fire. But then we were getting to this state, meaning that we don't have that line cast happening, because the line cast is in this state. And as you remember in the last video, you can't be in multiple states at the same time in the same state machine. You can have multiple state machines and whatever, but and then I was like, okay. So then I started to create a flow chart on the firing plant. You can have a state machine, and then I can also have a flow machine. But I was like, why am I doing it like this? Because then I will have to keep track of, I mean, it's still like, why shouldn't I do it a super unit? And I've done it a super unit, and this is it. Ooh. So yeah, guys, it's a little bit exciting. Let me actually go through you with a lot of pain that I had the first time I've done this. Now, this whole super flow is not ideal. It can be ideal, but maybe we will improve it later. So take it like that. And the reason why this is not ideal is because this line cast, I mean, the line cast right now, the only purpose for the line cast is to be used on the firing plant. But what if we want to use a line cast in general for something like the zombie? Maybe we have range zombies. Okay, and this is the problem. The problem is that the line itself is being let's go like this. The line itself, as you can see, you see that red thing? Don't look at the, you see that's the line cast. Actually, the line is invisible. We had to use a debug line to see it in editor. It wouldn't be seen in the game, but it is seen in the editor. As you can see, no line. Here we have line, so I can debug this. So what are we talking about? The line cast. So the problem is that the line cast always comes from left to right. So if the zombie would be to use the line will be like this, but the zombie needs the line the other way around. So maybe we will improve this later, but let's go node by node and see what we are doing here. Right from the input, we are going to debug draw line. Let's go to the scripting API. Debug draw line, and this is it. I'm only showing it to you like this for fun. A debug draw line is expecting a start, an end, hopefully that didn't saved. I was in play mode, it shouldn't be saved. There is a small bug with the undo. Yep, it kind of saved. Doesn't matter that much. Hopefully other shit didn't break. But anyway, it's expecting of I could have just looked at here and we see that it's expecting a vector 3. Jesus. Now, one thing that you need to be very careful, this is the color of the line. And when I did this the first time with Flow Canvas, the other visual tool that I used in the past, I was like, what? Why don't I see any line? And guess what, guys? The alpha was at 0. The line was there, but it was invisible. And this is the first thing that I checked when I did this. This is the first thing that I checked. So there are and this is, so we are inputting a vector tree here, a vector tree for where the line should start and for where the line should end. And we are doing this like this. We are using transform position. And let me tell you something else that I learned today. I was trying to use local position because I was thinking I need the exact position of the plant. But then the local position is like this. The local position of the plant is 0, 0, 0, because the plant is a child of the grass tile. And since the grass tile is whatever it's in space, we don't care about that. But the plant is at 0, 0, 0. And I had my line starting from here, right? This is the 0, 0, 0 point of my scene. It's like, the draw line, the debug draw line, the value there for the start, it's a global vector tree. The local position is a local vector tree. So I just decided to use the transform position, which is the global, whatever the plant is, that's what it's going to be, and bam, we had it. I had a line starting from the middle of the plant. It was in the middle of the plant. Keep that in mind. So we are going to do this. What we wanted was to offset the line a little bit. So this is why we have this. We are getting the x and the y, right? Y, that's what you call it, the x and the y of the vector tree. And we are adding 0.6 to the x and the y is exactly the same. We don't care about the y, but we are inputting 0.6 to the x, and we are going to create a new vector tree that we are going to feed into the draw line. Then for the end, we are getting our current position x and we are adding 6 to it. That's the end, and we are creating a new vector tree and we are inputting that new vector tree to the end. So this is basically, we are manipulating. This actually can be this can actually be this hard-coded value of 6. Actually, all of them can, all of those can be improved by creating actual variables and not hard-coded like this. And then those variables can maybe inputted into an input string, and we can. That's how we would improve this later. Right, so it wouldn't be hard-coded like this, but this is what we did with the line. And the thing is that we have a line, but the line is just something visual. The cool thing is that a line cast 2D that's under physics. Line cast 2D, it's requiring a vector 2 because it's 2D. A line cast 3D, I believe it's also vector 3. So keep this in mind. A line, let's say that we are using a line cast 3D. The line cast 3D, it's accepting inputs exactly like the draw line. So you could just drag and drop the same values into this thingy. And basically, an invisible line, you are going to have the same values as the debug line, which is visible. The reason why we are doing is like this, because since the line cast 2D is a 2D vector, we need to create a 2D vector. So this is why I created this 2D vector. I don't think that we can getting this over here. We can. And will this work? This will save some time. So things are moving. The line cast is happening. And let's do the zombie. Okay, it works. I guess that we don't need to create a vector 2. Good to know. So we fixed more stuff. It's more clean now. So in a way it makes sense, but at the same time, I mean, a vector 3 is x, y, z, and a vector 2 is x and y, y. So I think he's converting a vector 3 to a vector 2, and he's just throwing the z out, which we are actually not using anyway. So I guess that's what's happening. So hey, nice. So this is kind of like the thing that, my god, this was extreme the first time I've tried it. What I wanted to do, like the line cast, right? The line cast is a line that's going to collide with multiple colliders. In our case, it can collide with the bullet itself. It can collide with the plants, it can collide with the sun, and it can collide with the grass tiles, because the grass tiles themselves, they also have a trigger collider, and they can also collide with the zombie. So how are we making sure that we are only running the collider with the zombie? Now normally you could do something like and this is the problem that I had, the huge problem. I was using tags, right? And I was checking the tag of the zombie, and I was like, hey, when you are with the zombie, then you fire. But then there was a problem. The line cast was always hitting something. Even that it wasn't the zombie, it was hitting the freaking grass tile. So the grass, because the line cast was hitting the grass tile, it wasn't advancing later in a way to trigger with the zombie. It was something like that anyway. So the physics to the line cast is using this layer mask, and I would myself start to read more about it, because it is a little bit, it's not that confusing, but it can be a little bit like, huh? And because you have get mask, you layer to so this is what's happening. You have layers. You are not going to use tags, you're going to use layers. So the way this is doing is that it's going to, the line cast is there, it will fire, but it will not do any checks with any other stuff that are not in this layer that we just declared. If I am to unlink this, it will immediately hit the plant itself, in case the line cast is starting from the plant, but it will probably hit the grass tile. So right now the line is going, but it's only going to look for the zombie. So this is what is happening. The physics 2D is outputting a Rycast hit 2D, which has those variables: the collider, the distance, the friction, the normal, the point, the rigid body, and the transform. So what we are doing it's that we are checking the transform of the thing we just hit, in our case the zombie. And this, yeah, it is still, I think this is still required. I'm not sure that if I can do it directly like this. Maybe I can. I don't want to risk it right now. And the reason why it is remained like this is because I was also doing a check for the tag. I was using like get tag, tag, something like this, and I was inputting this game object here, and then I was doing a switch, a string switch check, I believe, and if it's zombie, I was triggering the rest. But this actually created, and then I just deleted this, and I was, hey, it works without tags, so I just left it like this. But this is the huge problem that I had, especially when I had that get tag. This was always firing. So sometimes this wasn't outputting any game object. get tag get. I wanted to use the Control Z, but I don't want to risk any type of whatever. Yeah, tag, game object tag. This was actually happening going into the switch, right? So the switch itself was always triggering. And let me actually show you. I was using, was it switch on string? And I was doing something like zombie, right? So this was going directly here. So this was always triggering. And of course, since this was always triggering, it was always looking at this. It was always looking at this. But this was the problem. The raycast hit 2D, it's empty if it's not hitting anything. So here, the switch string was looking at an empty game object, and it was outputting an arrow. It was red. So then I figured myself, hey, I need to do a branch, and then I need to check if something has been set. And then I remember that's not how you do it. You do a null check, and I actually looked at this list, and I was like, let's see what we can do. And I was like, null check. You have null check. All right, this is what we want. So this is what we are doing actually. If transform is null, we are setting the graph variable that's over here colliding to false, and then we are outputting. If this is true, it means that it exists. It means that it's hitting a zombie. We are setting the colliding ball to true. And then we have to do it like this because you can't do this and this at the same time. It's only accepting one input. So this is why we are doing a get variable and we are connecting this like this. Right? So this is outputting a colliding, which is true or false. And if you remember, if we go back at this thingy, we now know that if it's true or false that we are firing. As you can see, it's true. And if we are to take the zombie and move it into, we have to lock our plant. Even that we are not going to see it because we are going to go immediately to the other state. So let's go to the zombie and we are going to do it like this. You see how it's triggering? Whenever I get there, it's triggering. You don't see the flow anymore because we are not in this state anymore. We are in the firing state. And as you can see, it's going in like this. And this is set the other way around. When this is false, we trigger the stop firing. And hey guys, this was the part 3 of this tutorial. And I do hope that this was really useful to you. And judging from the total size of this video, I don't have a timer which tells me for how long I've talked. But it's almost 2.7. I believe this is also around 50 minutes. So guys, I believe that I've tackled everything. This was a really interesting episode. It really brings me some joy. So thank you guys for watching this. Hopefully this was useful for you. See you soon. Goodbye.